first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. Thanks for joining us. We're live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. We're here every weekday. We start at 1 p.m. We go throughout the afternoon and we cover a wide range of topics. Right now, we're going to be talking about a topic that is certainly on everyone's mind around the world, and that is the ongoing war in Iran against U.S. and Israel, launching strikes against Iran. And one of the things, of the myriad concerns that are going on, one of those has to do with cyber threats and what that means actually for people at home in the United States or really around the world, of what to be aware of, how to protect yourselves, and what to watch out for should there be elevated risks of cyber threats and attacks. And we're going to talk about that right now. We've got Tony Sabaj joining us again from Check Point. Tony, great to have you on here to help us out with this. And, I guess to start off, I'll just ask this. Is there real concern that we could see an uptick in cyber threats and attacks as a result of these actions that are taking place in Iran?
Yeah, absolutely. And probably in the last 10 to 15 years, anytime there's any kind of kinetic conflict and war or strikes, your cyber has always been a part of it. And we're seeing, nation state type attacks on maybe sometimes critical infrastructure. So, people in like the energy sector and the utility sector, and obviously the defense sector should be, extra vigilant because they're cyber targets, even in in a war where you're thinking, it might just be bombs and airplanes and guns, but cyber is a big part of all of that, and all of those industries are on alert. But obviously, the average person who isn't working for a defense contractor or a utility at this point and not really in charge of cybersecurity still have things to be concerned about. And there's the good general, hygiene of security, of, not reusing passwords and using multi-factor authentication and being suspicious of links. But what we're starting to see now is people kind of doing targeted phishing attacks. So if you're vocal about something, say on social media, for or against, with, certain, topics, especially if they're, hot topics, what we're seeing is people, scraping social media and saying, oh, well, Greg says he likes the color green, so I'm going to send Greg a targeted attack about joining a group of people that like the color green, and using that as targeted phishing attempts. So if you're posting on social media with strong opinions, you may make yourself a target for people who are just trying to be opportunistic and take advantage of these types of conflicts. It may not be actually part of the actual conflict, but people obviously use these things as opportunities. So not saying you shouldn't post on social media and voice your opinion. It's one of our rights, but also be wary of targeted attacks based on maybe some of the positions you may take online.
Interesting. So they'll skim those social media posts, find out if you're very passionate about something, and then use that to target you, to try to fish out information from you.
Yeah, and it may not be anything related to whatever conflict it is. It could be just opportunistic, criminals or hackers trying to, get you to click on something, install malware, purchase or make a donation or to a cause that may be a total scam. So that's something that the average person should, keep in mind, especially as they post and make their opinions known, which is 100% the right thing to do, but be wary of it.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, especially, I can see it also just as, there's a lot of emotions surrounding a lot of issues that are going on, and if people are very emotionally attached and then to something, and then, it's easy to just click through on things if you're just not stopping and thinking about that fact that people may be trying to take advantage of you. So yeah, very good information to think about for everybody out there before you click on that stuff. When it comes to, say, your devices, your phone, your computer, your laptop, what are some things that you should be doing to make sure that you're secure, or at least as secure as you can be when it comes to potential threats?
Yeah, so when it comes to your own, personal devices, still some of the biggest things out there are some of the, kind of the low-hanging fruit of, making sure you're not reusing passwords on multiple sites. That's probably one of the biggest threats out there for the average person. Every company, not every company, but lots of companies get breached, and if you're reusing passwords, they're going to see your email address and a breach password, and they're going to assume that you're probably reusing that combination in multiple places. Turn on most places that require authentication or using things like two-factor authentication or MFA, multi-factor authentication. Could be a text message. It could be using a authenticator app like Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. And then we're also starting to see a lot of applications and services move to what we call passkeys, which is like a very quick sort of a cryptographic exchange of information that really proves that it's you. Using encryption technologies, a very quick sort of passing of encrypted information that only you can unencrypt, and if you unencrypt it, then it knows it's you. You don't have to set any of it up. You just use the passkey, and it kind of works magically behind the scenes. You don't have to understand exactly how it works. Those are even more secure. Be wary of phishing links. There's still email is still the number one vector of getting people to go to malicious sites or click on malicious downloads. So be wary of offers or strongly worded emails. Especially with the rise of AI, these emails are getting harder and harder to distinguish from legitimate emails. They're saying craft an email that looks just like the U.S. Postal Service, and you have a package that's being delayed because of conflicts going on or weather. With AI, it's very easy to create these to look even as legitimate as they possibly can be. So look out for those types of things. If you get those kinds of emails, go to the USPS website. Don't click on the link in that email, and then use your tracking number to see if it's a legitimate email or not. Be wary of clicking on links. Look at the actual sender. That's probably one of the biggest things. Like, I can change the display name of any email to say I'm Greg Nibbler instead of Tony Sabaj, but I can't really change the actual email address. So, look on the details of the email, and don't just look at the display name, but look at the actual email address. And chances are it's random characters. It's some random domain. It's not, Greg Nibbler at fox12.com, or if that's your email. Hopefully I didn't just give it out to the world. But
that's okay. They can find
I can say that my name's Greg Nibbler, but I can't fake your email address very easily.
Yeah.
So
yeah, good point. Yeah, always looking at that. When it comes to hardware, or even in particular smart home devices, what are some steps that people can do to make sure that those things are secure and not hackable, and that someone could get into
yeah,
those?
and that's another big thing. I mean, unless you're a security professional and you're keeping up to date on patching all of your home systems, if you have a smart camera or smart locks or smart garage door openers or home automation, there's always bugs and vulnerabilities in these solutions. Nothing's perfect. The number one thing that people could do is to make sure they change the default password. Most home internet connected devices come with a default password that's usually in the owner's manual of the device. So they may ship a million, smart locks that all have the same default password. So make sure you change that default password, because that's the number one thing that hackers will try to do. Obviously there's always patches and updates. I would make sure you update your system. Everyone's got a cell phone. You get a notification every time there's a new update to, iOS 26.1.2.6.7, or, Android release, whatever food they're naming it after these days. There's always these updates, and people do a pretty good job of keeping their phones up to date, but people don't do a good job of making sure that their, smart locks are up to date, or their, home ring doorbells, or their, internet connected, garage door openers are up to date with firmware. And you can usually do that within almost all these devices have a companion app on your phone, and there's usually a way to update the software and check for updates in there. So that's something that the average person can do to help protect themselves.
So go through, open up those apps, make sure that you have everything up to date when it comes to those connected devices.
Yeah, it's usually like in the settings, and it'll say firmware update or software update, and it's not just updating the app; it's actually updating the code that might be on your home device.
Good to know. I guess last thing is what should people be concerned with if we do see a very serious uptick in cyber threats and attacks from Iranian government operatives?
So in kind of more of a conflict or a war setting, the targets are going to be utilities, water treatment plants, defense contractors, government installations. Probably not something that the average person can really control, but they may be going after individuals, not necessarily a person in particular, but they may be going after individuals to create a botnet to then go out and do a more substantial attack on something else. So they might get you to install a bot that just sits on your computer, and you don't even know it's not doing anything bad to your computer, but they're using that to launch attacks on more interesting targets than the average individual. So look for kind of weird performance on your computers. If your hard drive's always going, or the CPU is always going, or you always notice the fan's always on, that might mean that there might be some malware running in the background that could be doing something damaging to yourself, like trying to steal information like bank accounts or personal information. But it could also be simply just a bot that's waiting to be used to launch a denial of service attack against something within the borders of our country, and you become an unwilling participant in that attack.
So that all comes back to that: watching out what you click, don't give out your information, making sure that you're doing everything you can to make sure that you're safe.
Yep.
Great. Anything else that you think is important for people to know, Tony?
Yeah, I just think stay, be skeptical in a good way. If you're getting emails or you're getting private messages on whatever messaging app or social media, and it's people asking for strange information, or people you don't recognize, if it's just regular banter, that's fine. But if they're trying to ask for information, make sure you really know that person, and it's not someone impersonating, trying to get you to click on a link or give up information or get you to install something that can damage yourself or be used in a larger scale type of electronic attack.
All right, Tony, thank you very much, for joining us. This is all good information for people to know and just be aware of, like in general, anytime, but particularly right now too, just to make sure that, as you mentioned, that you're not unwittingly becoming part of something, and then just keeping yourself safe and protected and secure from people who are out there trying to take advantage of these situations, which they're always going to be there, trying to take advantage of whatever it is. You just gotta protect yourself. And Tony, thank you very much. Thanks for your time in joining us.
Thanks, Greg.
And for everybody watching, this is Fox 12 Now. We're going to go ahead and sign off. We'll switch our programming. If anything happens between now and 4 o'clock, breaking news-wise, I'll be back for that. And you never know, we could have more segments coming up too. But we are live streaming. Make sure you download the Fox 12 Oregon app from the secure store that you go to. We've got Fire TV, Apple TV, Roku. Go through one of those, grab that Fox 12 Oregon app. You can watch us live or after the fact, and a lot of other content. But thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.